Kevin Paulin, and welcome to the Falling Up Podcast, where we have conversations about turning obstacles into opportunities. And on today's show, we have the privilege of being joined by Mrs. Katrina Goins. Katrina is the principal consultant at Katrina Goins Consulting LLC, where she dedicates her expertise to building financially sustainable communities. Her work involves grant writing, strategic planning, and championing financial inclusion strategies that significantly impact organizations and individuals alike. So welcome, Mrs. Katrina Goins. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's an absolute pleasure and an honor to have you join us tonight. And I'm going to just jump right in, all right?
Sounds good.
All right. Can you share with us, just give us a bit of information about your early motivations of what got you into the field of financial consulting and community development?
So my background is in banking, and I loved working in banking, but I felt like there was something more. And especially being a woman of color, I felt like there wasn't a lot of opportunities for BIPOC, which is Black, Indigenous people of color, and others that are considered low to moderate income to really thrive. There wasn't a lot of products and even services offered for those type of things. So I was drawn into the finance world, but then I was drawn to community development finance to try to make a difference, for those that are considered BIPOC or low to moderate income, and find ways to make us thrive. And the two ways, and there's other ways as well, but the two ways that I particularly like to work and help those that are BIPOC or low to moderate income is with homeownership as well as with entrepreneurship.
All right, so let's talk about that. Before we get into the home ownership and entrepreneurship, can you tell our audience, where you're from, what's the hometown and everything like that?
Yes, I am from Connecticut, born, raised, still residing in Connecticut, New Haven County. Still same thing happening here. Not planning on moving. This is where I grow, and it's where I know, and it's where I love.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And it's awesome. Your sense of community is evident through your career choices and the things that you've done. But let's go back to when you mentioned the asset, gaining assets. So, you mentioned real estate and then also entrepreneurship. What about those financial vehicles financial vehicles that most inspires you to get people to engage into those fields?
Well, I feel like it's this wealth gap that's really one of the biggest motivators for me to try to dismantle that. It's pretty bad. I looked at a recent statistic, and they said the average Caucasian household has 171,000 in net assets, while those that are considered African American have 17,000 in net assets. And that's a significant difference. And when we look at how do we get ahead? How do we get these opportunities and advancement? And a lot of people will say, okay, well, we need to get educated. And that's true. But that historically, that was an issue, but not lately. A lot of us have been getting education, and that's good. But I think the next step is to really go and have those assets created through equity, and equity, coming from home ownership is wonderful. That's a wonderful way. It's historic, and then it's still relevant to today. And then another way is creating your own business. But I like to take that a step further, not just creating entrepreneurship and doing your own business, but really making that business thrive and making it successful. And I because I worked in banking, I've seen a lot of businesses get started and I've seen them flop. And one of the biggest things for me is like, okay, well, how do I help with this? They need some grants instead of having all this startup money on their own, or getting the capital and maybe defaulting on these loans. So I really encourage entrepreneurs to get grants to help you so that you can help it to be successful.
Okay, let's talk about that grant writing. Because what you're mentioning is something that a lot of business owners are very curious about, want to engage in in receiving grants, but don't know what it looks like to even get access to that. So what does that look like for a new business owner that's looking to get those funds?
So I think that a lot of people know about grants. That's not a new topic or anything.
Mhm.
But I do think that it's hard to search out these grants, especially for new businesses. Like you might see some grants that are open and available, but they require you to have been in business for, maybe 2 years or whatever it is, a year. You have to be good standing with the Department of Revenue Services. And there's a whole bunch of other things too that they ask you for some of these grant applications. And I do think that sometimes when people see that, it deters them from not looking for any more grant opportunities. So that's why I highly advise going with someone like myself. In my consulting business, I'll source out these grant opportunities for you and write them. Do I charge a fee? Yes. But, I feel like it is worth it if we can do multiple grant applications, find those right ones for you. Should you have some skin in the game? Yes. You should have got your business up to a certain degree, maybe like a month or two. Some grants don't even require that, but some do, and I could take a look into that. But I don't think it's a topic that's talked about enough with small businesses that just started. Some of these grant writers, when they bring it up to you, they're like, how long have you been in business? At least 2 years? Because you need at least 2 years. And like sometimes you're just like, I just need to get my foot in the door.
Right.
I just need to get professional development or pay for these really costly things like QuickBooks and all these other things that I have to start paying for now that I didn't have to pay for when I was a W-2 worker. So I get it. And that's why I am doing what I'm doing, and I'm here to help.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. And we certainly do need the help in our communities for sure. And it's definitely worth the fee, right? Having access, sometimes when they say you got to pay to play, and to elevate your business, you have to invest. I mean, that's just the name of the game. So I think it's a absolutely brilliant investment to work with someone like you. And just staying on that topic of what you do with your consulting firm, can you think of a time that the grant proposal was challenging, and in your time being a consultant, and then what did you do to make it work? How did you make it successful in the end?
So I will, well, even before I opened up my own consulting firm, I was writing grants. And I think that honestly, the most challenging was in the beginning. I had to write a federal grant for the CDFI fund. And anybody that knows federal grants, you don't just get thrown in those usually. You got to work your way up to those federal grants because it was very difficult. Right? I didn't even know before I can even write the grant that I had to do an SF 424. That is a cover letter in the grant.gov world. So that was really difficult for me to really learn that, gravitate onto it. The narratives weren't as tough. It was actually navigating the Salesforce platform to even, write that grant application. But once and to be not trying to be funny or anything or to make myself sound better or anything, but I wrote my first federal grant and I won it. And I'm just like, but I won't say that it didn't come with challenges and some sleepless nights. It was very hard. But when I felt like, okay, I wrote 2 federal grants, they were both winning applications, I was like, well, I maybe I should look into this a little bit more. And I did, but it was a serious challenge. Those federal grants are a beast. But I think especially as a newbie, I was like, wow, it was definitely difficult, but it made everything a lot better for me writing grants today in my consulting business.
And I said before we started that we weren't gonna, I'm not gonna talk much about winning ways, but I gotta mention this. For us, shout outs to Andrew. He's one of our co-founders in Winning Ways. Is me, Andrew, and Ben. And Andrew, we were very naive when we started Winning Ways, which helped us in terms of sticking to it. I think if we knew the struggles, we may not have continued to do it. But then, being naive actually worked in our advantage. And the first grant that we applied for and got was a CDBG from City of New Haven.
Yep, that's Community Development Block Grant for those that don't know, just because the acronyms are really hard to follow.
Yeah, no, thank you. Correct. Community Development
Block Grant.
Thank you. I see. That's why you're the grant writer. And it's hilarious because that first grant was the grant that gave us our foundation to write other grants, like kind of like, copy and paste to make sure that it fits what this other funder. But we didn't realize till like years later that we did basically our first grant was a federal grant. It was such a hard push. but that helped develop it. So I second that. Is 100% a beast to write a federal grant, and to start there and work down though is once you get the federal grant, the other grants. Would you agree? The other grants start to be a little more digestible, right?
I didn't want to say the word easy because that's not true, but I wanted to say like when I wrote another grant, and I was like, is that all?
Right.
This was, it was a lot less work than the federal grant. I'll just say so.
Agreed. Not easier, just less of a push. Let's
say that. Sure.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So let's take a step back. Being from New Haven County, you've held many roles in the financial sector that intertwines with the community. From community liaison with the FEC, which is a financial empowerment center of the city of New Haven, or being a loan officer for CDFI. All your passions are evident, right? Because they tie into the community in many ways of everything you do, which I applaud. Well, I want to take a step back before those roles and take a step back into banking. And when you first went into banking, can you share that experience of banking from your perspective? Because we're all about giving flowers on the Falling Up podcast. So, I definitely want to give you your flowers because the financial sector is not dominated by Black women. And that's a travesty. And things are changing, but not fast enough. So I'm sure, there's been obstacles and situations that slowed up your progress, or could have slowed up your progress, I should say. But it doesn't look like it has based off of your successful career. So, okay, let's take a step back. Let's talk about banking and what those challenges were like when you first entered into the financial sector.
Well, I started off, I think, a lot of people do this, but I started off, with a humble beginning. So I worked in customer service. When I first started in banking, I was getting better and better. And that's when they asked to move me up, into the branch and work as a personal banker. And from there, I honestly did want to grow, but as you mentioned, it is difficult, to keep moving up. And I think what was happening with me is, even though I was a good worker, I was very opinionated, and I wasn't shy about sharing my opinions. Like, I mean, it worked in some cases, but I think it worked against me as well when I tried to move past the role as a personal banker, because I was really pushing us to do more with the community. And I mean, it was good in a way because we did create our first CRA eligible product, and CRA stands for Community Reinvestment Act. And it was really helpful to do that, to create a community loan product. That's even before they became a CDFI. But I realized that my opinions probably aren't as favorable, to the higher executive leadership. So that's actually what kind of encouraged me. Other than me wanting to do more with community related finance, I also wasn't getting the opportunities that I wanted to get. So that's why I left the banking field, went to go work for municipal city of New Haven, actually, and then dabbled around, a little bit. But it's that being able to move up, which is like a roadblocker. And I don't think just because of me being an African-American woman, I think there's a lot of components to that, but I'm not going to lie. Being a Black woman is difficult. I don't have to say that. Everybody knows that. It is, it has its own sets of challenges. But I think that just being sometimes a little bit too loud about your opinions and not just shying away from them like some people do, didn't allow me to leverage in the banking world.
Which and again, salute to you, because you didn't leverage your beliefs and your representation to be advanced, right? You didn't become a person that didn't share their views and perspective. You actually shared it and looked to make change. And if that ruffled feathers, then so be it, right? But it's at a cost for a promotion. But if a company doesn't want to promote an intelligent Black woman, then that's their loss, right? Can you give some strategies behind that? Like, what are some strategies that that you implemented to navigate those spaces?
So I think honestly, I'm not just saying this because of my generation, but I really do think that when you move around, you do gain a little bit more respect, like in terms of, okay, well, if I'm not getting the position here, I'm gonna leave, and politely give my 2 weeks resignation. And going to another employer, not just to make more money, but even to, if you can, to upgrade your position and to try to get better, because like honestly it did work out pretty well for me, because I ended up going back to the banking field that I was, or the employer again, but I did have a lot better, just to be completely transparent. So when I left, I was making like less than $20 an hour, right? And then I went to go off in my other little and places of employment at that time. And when I came back to the banking world, I doubled that by $36 an hour. So it's just like, yeah, like that was it. I was like, I remember when my salary was a whole lot less than this when I got back there, and I was only there for another year, and then I ended up traveling on to my next venture. But that's kind of the route to go, is to just kind of sample it out. I don't think that you should move around too much, because that's probably bad for your resume. But if you're not getting where you want to be, if you don't feel like you're getting the promotion or you're getting the respect or whatever it is, your mental health, everything, then do what you need to do and move forward, because there's so many places that are hiring.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. So leverage your talent and your experience to find a new opportunity.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So I want to get into your faith and your belief. One thing I noticed on your questionnaire was you're a devout Christian, right? Yeah. And with me, when I think of devout Christian, I think of my mother. My mother is a pastor. My dad's a reverend. My sister's a pastor. She went to Lee University. And I know you went to Regent University, which we're going to talk on. But yeah, tell me how faith has helped you overcome obstacles professionally, personally. Just share how important the faith is to you and how that helps you navigate through our society.
So it's definitely helped me. I don't like to use the word religious, and I don't think you did use it, but just to get that out in the air, I do not like that word. It's not even in the Bible. I like to say that I have a relationship with the Lord, my Lord and Savior. And it has definitely helped me. I had to pray a lot, throughout this journey. There was definitely times of uncertainty. There's still times of uncertainty, even in my consulting business, where I'm just like, I don't know my next route. I don't know the direction. I don't know my path, but I pray, I fast, I read my Bible to get wisdom of how to go about certain things, and even making connections with certain people, gaining, access myself with certain clients, or, dealing with these contracts. It's a lot of uncertainty, and we need to have Jesus, leading the way, because he's the only way really for us to have understanding. So my faith has gotten me through. It's still getting me through. I'm so thankful for it. And I'm so glad you brought this up. This is such a wonderful question. Yes, I completely rely on prayer and really biblical understanding, reading the Bible and helping me to understand things better.
And thank you for sharing that, because on the Falling Up podcast, when we talk about obstacles, turning obstacles to opportunities, or turning poison into medicine, right? Faith has everything to do with that, because it's about changing your perspective, right? On when you're going through a hardship, how that hardship is an opportunity to create to have a testimony, right? And essentially, that's what the Falling Up podcast is. We highlight testimonies. We just say it a different way, but essentially, we're highlighting the testimony, right? So I say that to say that our audience, what we promise our audience, is to provide tangible ways to get to their falling up moment, to get through that hard time. So can you share more about, because I'm very interested, and I know our audience is too. Can you share more about what that looks like when it comes to practicing your faith. Like, what does prayer look like? What does it look like to dive into your Bible? Like, what does that look like for you on a typical day that someone else can mimic?
For sure. I pray every day, multiple times in a day. I try to, if not just once, but I do multiple times a day. I'm just thinking about it. My daily schedule, daily routine. So I do pray, and I'm specific, with my prayers. I do pray for other people, right? But in terms of business, I do pray like, Lord, what's my next move? I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should sign with this client. I'm feeling a little leery about, certain things, or I don't know how. In the beginning, I'm just like, I don't know how to create this website, who to work with. I don't know. I have blank out moments. Like, even though I'm a grant writer, I'm like, I don't know what to say in this grant. Where certain things, or somebody's asking me to say something that may not be true, and I don't want to lie. All these things. So I pray about all that, and even just income, right? Like getting the cash flow. Like, I'm just like, Lord, I don't know how things are gonna look in Q3 when I'm done with this project, if I'm honest. And I have to pray about that too. Like, tell me what I need to do with this next step. And honestly, RFPs have been a blessing. The Lord put that in my path, is to start doing an RFPs, or request for proposals. So those can be for grant, they could be for funding opportunities through via grants, but they also, RFPs can be for you to find a project if you're, venturing out in your own business. And it doesn't even matter what business it is. Because I'm a consultant, right? And I do community development, finance, social impact, research, and all those things. But even for, even my sister's a life coach, and I found an RFP for her. So, and I was praying about all this, right? Because I'm always seeking direction. So that is big. And that's how my prayer life goes pretty much every day. And I do try to read the Bible every day too. And I have my women's devotional. All of those things are so encouraging, and they're helpful. And then, just even playing like a little gospel jazz, like sometimes I put it in the background, or the Lofi YouTube. That's very helpful too.
No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So in other words, you're manifesting, or you're getting the guidance from God, from the Bible, and you're being intentful, right? You're being specific. These are the things I want to see happen for me and my clients and the people around me. And these things are happening because your faith is strong. You believe that's going to happen because you're leaning on your faith. And
even my clients, for grant purposes, I'm praying for them too to get the grant, not just because I wrote it, but I'm really praying because some of their missions are like what they're using the funds for. I'm like, oh my gosh, they really need to use this for XYZ. Lord, I'm praying that they get it. Please bless them. I'm going to check. I'm praying about them too.
Nah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. So speaking of your clients, because I could talk about this all day. What draws you to a client? Is it their mission? Is it your guidance as you pray and your faith? Like what? Because I could be wrong with this, but I'm assuming. I feel like, and just tell me if I'm wrong. I feel like you're the type of person that, yes, you're a great consultant. You're an entrepreneur. You're looking for clients, right? That's the name of the game. However, I think the clients have to align with your beliefs and your moral compass before you would invest your time, regardless of what they're paying. That's just the vibe I get. Is that accurate?
So I am specific. I do like to work with mission-driven organizations. Do clients have to be a believer? No. After a while, when they do start to talk to me, I feel like they will know that I am. Yeah. And if that becomes an issue at all, then they certainly don't have to work with me. But I always feel like it's actually better that I am, even if they're not, because you should know that my business is based on ethical practices. And I put that in my, it's inside of my vision, or inside my ethic behavior on my website too. But yeah, like I think that, in terms of my clients, I really do like to work with organizations that just have this really big goal to either have financial inclusion, working with the underserved or the underrepresented population, which could be BIPOC, which could be low to moderate income, which could be disabled individuals, stuff like that. I do like organizations that are doing purposeful work.
Understood. It lines up with everything you've been doing, so it makes perfect sense to me.
Or incarcerated.
Yeah, listen, re-entry. Listen,
Re-entry. Yeah.
absolutely. Underserved, right? That falls under the underserved population, and yeah, me too. I have a liking to assisting individuals that the talent is there, the spark is there. They just need some guidance, access to resources, just the opportunity, right? And that's why I love what what you and your consulting firm is doing. You're providing access because there's a lot of nonprofits out here that's really doing the work with little to no money. And if they had a little bit more money, the impact would be great. But how do they get that impact? How do they get those? Not how they get that impact. How do they get to that bigger impact? They need funding, right? And that's what you're doing. So I do want to talk about Regent University. Not years ago, maybe a few years ago, Ben, shout outs to Ben. We went to Virginia Beach and we went to a Dave Matthew Band concert. And I stayed at a hotel called the Founders Inn by Hilton. And the hotel was beautiful, magnificent. And I noticed that we were on the campus of Regent University. And I forgot the name of it. Is it CBC? Is it the Christian Broadcasting? Is it CBC? Am I right?
Christian Broadcasting Network.
CBN. Yeah, CBN. Yeah. My mother been donating to them for as long as I've been alive. Like literally, she loves CBN. So one of the things I want to do with her is take her down to Virginia Beach and let her stay in the Hilton. She worked at Hilton for 30 something years, so it'll be nice to make full circle and then bring her to the school and bring her to church out there and all that good stuff. So that's something we're working on. But when I see Regent University, I'm like, I know that school. Tell us about that. Coming from New Haven County and transitioning to Virginia. How did that? And then also Yale, correct? You also went to Yale?
Yeah. So I'll tell you, it's an interesting journey. And I actually like to bring up this story because when I graduated high school in 2009, I was not accepted to any public colleges.
Really?
My GPA was so low that, believe it or not, that I could not I tried to get in Southern, Central, and Eastern, and I was denied. And it was because in my freshman year, I was cutting up. So I didn't know it was a cumulative. Back then I was like, wait, I did so good senior year. And they were like, senior year? Because, what was your GPA? Was a 1 point whatever when you were a freshman. And I was like, oh, snap. I did not know. So anyway, long story short, I went to Gateway. I was, I had no choice. It ended up being a blessing in disguise. I went to Gateway, got my associate's degree, really got serious about it. When I was there, I didn't want to be there, but it was a blessing in disguise that I went there. After I got my associate's degree, that's when, because I did a lot better at Gateway, I realized at that time, though, that I wanted to move to Virginia and go to Regent. Regent was one of the rare colleges that had my degree, which is leadership. And Albertus Magnus has leadership too. You can major in leadership there as an accelerated program, which is also what I was looking for as well to get my bachelor's degree. But because your girl works in finance, I looked at the tuition prices and I didn't like the tuition at Albertus. So I already calculated my student loan working in lending. And I was like, I'm not going to pay that back. I went to Regent because it made more sense because it was a Christian school. One, I loved that. And two, the tuition was less. So I was about to head out. I already put in my my resignation at my job to go move to Virginia to go to Regent. But around that time where I was heading out, I met my husband and he proposed to me and I ended up staying here. But my degree program was fully remote. So I was able to still get my degree and I did. And I got it in 2 years since it was an accelerated program. And Regent was great. When I went down there for my graduation, I just loved the campus. I went down there I think a total of 2 or 3 times. But it's a great school. I would highly recommend it. Tuition prices are lower. And, and I felt so good graduating with honors, wearing those, I forgot what you call them. I graduated a Sigma Beta, Sigma Cum.
Yeah. Cum laude.
Culotta, whatever it is.
Yeah. What are those?
I had the chords. They
Smart.
gave me my chords. Because I graduated 3.71, and it meant so much to me because of where I came from. And then I always dreamed on going to Yale. I dreamed about it when I was a little girl, but I'm not gonna lie, I got my dreams crushed when somebody was like, "How you gonna pay for that? And you're not smart enough to go to Yale." But anyway, I ended up going to Yale. I didn't go to, I was looking at my master's program, and then I decided, I don't want to pay, to get a master's degree. The tuition just isn't worth it. But I did get my certificate in ESG, which is environmental, social, and governance, and it's sustainable finance. And it felt good to go there too, to get that certificate. It just meant so much to me. I got it, the SOM, which is the School of Management there at Yale. So it was great. That my whole experience after high school, I was like really disappointed, but it ended up being like this beautiful academic journey. So that's my story.
No, that's awesome. No, Yale for anything is Yale. So salute to that, and it's awesome. So I didn't know the price of Regent were lower, so that's great to know, and great for our audience to know for a virtual option, right?
They sent me to check it years ago. I say because prices keep going up and up, so I always tell people to do their due diligence. But if you feel unsure, please come talk to me.
There you go. Listen, if you need the access to Regent, we talk to the alumni. You know what I mean? Talk to Katrina. She got you. No, that's awesome. That's really, really cool. So the Regent, the Yale experience. What is the, because you said 3.71 is amazing. I was gonna say, but that's probably one of the, like you just said it, as far as like an accomplishment in school, but minus those accomplishments, which are great. What was one thing that you learned from Regent during the time going to school for those 2 years? What was the one lesson that you got out of there that really made an impact on you?
That's a really good question. Honestly, one of the things I really loved about Regent was that you can incorporate Jesus and incorporate our beliefs into the work. I got to take that with me, and I just appreciate it. I think that's also why I thrived in it so well too, was that I was comfortable being able to talk about like my belief in academics. Like we're not, we're all Christians, but we're all striving, to serve Jesus better, but we're also striving also to get our academic life's in order as well. And it was such a beautiful thing that I took with me from Regent. It was just, I love that so much. I honestly kind of like did want to go out there to go to school, but it's all good. I'm so glad for the professors that I had. They were great. I was even able to use a couple of my professors as references, and I was so grateful for that when I was looking to get work after Regent. So
no, that's everything. There's a referral, especially for professors like that. That's a beautiful thing. And I do want to say something too, because I feel like I brushed over it, but it's standing out to me, so I want to make sure I address it. You sound just like my mom when she says, I'm not bringing you religion, I'm bringing you my relationship with God. That like verbatim.
Lovely, I met her.
Yes. Shout out to Mama Marie. You know what I mean? She's a rock. She's a prayer warrior, and I'm certainly not in the space that I'm in without her prayers. Like I'm protected, and I really love when people say that though, because I do think that religion, like you said, it's not in the Bible, right? Like religion can oftentimes discourage people from diving into the faith, into taking that time to learn more and use that for their life, and it discourages them because of the religious aspect. But when you talk about a relationship, when you talk about building faith and personal development, I think that's what needs to be highlighted, and not so much the religious part of it. So I love that you said that, and I think that's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing when people could realize, your relationship with God and how that looks is for you. There are, we got commandments, we have these different guidelines to live by, but at the end of the day, you're accountable for your relationship, and if you invest in that relationship, you're going to see results. With that said, speaking of investment, I want to go going back into consulting and investment, and I know with your experience with CDFI and loans and all that good stuff, tell us about those financial instruments, those vehicles, and then what is the barriers that individuals face when trying to access those types of funding?
So without the CDFI, you mean and again, the CDFI is the Community Development Financial Institutions.
Thank you.
And we do have a few of them here in Connecticut. But I think, so I guess either with CDFIs or without CDFIs, it's just hard for people to gain access to capital as it relates usually to home ownership and for business lending. And that's why I feel like it's just so pivotal for me to try to help, because if you don't have a certain credit score or if you have things behind you, like even gaining business credit, it's difficult, to do that. And I always try to find, I'm very unconventional. So I think outside of the box, and I never thought like a regular loan officer, which is why they gave me a community loan officer role. I don't feel like it was fitting for me to be a regular loan officer anywhere. But anyway, so I think it really is difficult. So that's why I look at so many of these different loan products or different resources to help you. Like, even for instance, I'm just going to bring this up. Like, Liberty Bank has a program where if you do their course, then you're not pretty much automatically given the loan, but because you did their course, that you have a very high percentage of getting a $10,000 loan with them. It's either 5 or 10,000, and that's a business loan. And I love that. I will give more information about it if somebody says, oh, hey, Katrina, how can I get like quick? It's not quick, but how can I get a little bit faster than a typical business loan application? If you're a new business owner, or if you're, a business owner that's been in business for maybe like 5 years or less or something like that. But that, and then again, home ownership, it is so difficult, especially in this market. To really like find somebody that's going to work with you if you have like some credit issues, if you have a higher debt to income ratio, just like your student loans being up there and they're using that against you, because they are, so it's just like, I want to get people to get the help that they need. And that's either through CDFIs or it's not with CDFIs. I just find different products and services that are out there that maybe only be out there for a year or whatever. I'm going to help people to get in those products or services and get funding that they need so that they can get that capital. They can also start establishing equity. I want to see that amongst those underrepresented population, because I'm in that same bucket with you. I just happen to be fortunate enough to working in banking actually really helped my life in so many ways, because it really opened the doors. Like, I didn't grow up with people telling me how to use money, in the right ways. So working in banking really helped me. Before I knew it, was there not even for that long before I got my credit score up to 800 plus. So it's just like with that, because I had that type of credit, I never really had issues with getting access to capital. But I realized how hard it was for people that looked like me, because they didn't have this credit score, this high credit score, and had more debt than, money sometimes, and that hurts, because again, it's a part of what we look at with your debt to income ratio when you get a loan. And I really was, my thought process was, how can I help get this problem rectified? Because this is getting in the way of people. This is getting in the way of that 17,000 worth of net assets for Black Americans, and 171,000 net assets for white. Come on, we got to do something about that. We got to close that gap, because we need to get everything together. But it's just a matter of, okay, well, how do I do that? Everybody knows they need to do it, but how do I do it? Because you got people that say they're going to help you, but they don't. And I know that for me and my consulting business, I am trying everything I can to really help you to get to those next steps.
Right. So it sounds like through your consulting business, you're also providing financial literacy, right? Like you're giving people the tools.
I don't do financial literacy, but I do have one service I offer to individuals that do our credit challenge or that have debt to income ratio, a high debt to income ratio, and helping them to find a loan that's compatible with their situation.
Okay. So tell me, what's your thoughts on financial literacy?
It's great. I did it, while I was a certified financial counselor. And I highly advise that others should look into that. Like, it's just like how wealthy people get a financial advisor. I think that if you're low to moderate income, you should be working with someone that can help you to get your finances on track. And of course, ideally, it would be great if it's always free. I know in New Haven it is. So if you go to the Financial Empowerment Center in New Haven, they have a free financial counseling service. But there's really quite a few places offering, these financial coaching, and it's good to look into it instead of just kind of taking matters into your own hand. Like, a lot of people really don't know what steps you need to do to get yourself on track. So definitely look into that. And if you need some referrals, for places that are legitimate, please, inquire, because I really would love to help with that too, to at least get them the referrals. I don't do it myself anymore, but I can at least get you some referrals to legitimate, businesses that do that. Whether or not there will be a fee, we can look at that and review it.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. So with financial literacy for me, well, first and foremost, as you know, as we said before we started this, I love financial literacy. I think everyone should be exposed to it. I do think, and I just want to get your thoughts on this. I do think that, like, going based off what you're saying, right? Like, many of our brothers and sisters from our community have never been exposed to it. So, again, going with the acronyms, the ABCDs, 1, 2, 3s, it's hard to navigate all those acronyms and really understand, what this means, or what does that mean, and how this applies to me, and all those things. It's hard to navigate if you're unfamiliar. So for me, I think places like the FEC and these other places where they're doing financial consulting is amazing, but I think there is a barrier when it comes to individuals that have no reference point. Like, if you've worked, come out of college, worked a little bit, got a credit card, certain things, paid your rent, then you have a baseline of what it looks like to budget. But you have individuals that never done that ever, and maybe they was incarcerated for decades, or maybe they're in recovery and they were living a life where substance abuse was the primary factor in their life. Like, what are your thoughts with the communication barrier between financial experts and individuals that have never been exposed to the financial sector?
Honestly, I think there's a big financial barrier with that, or communication barrier with that, because one, I think that some of these individuals have also mental health issues, and then I think that when you go to a professional, they're not really used to dealing with that, so that already creates like an issue in and of itself. And then you have those that just use a whole bunch of jargon. So when they find them in a jargon, you're using words that people don't know. Like, if you keep talking over someone's head, of course it's going to deter them from working with you, or they feel uncomfortable. I think that when certain people get to a certain level, that it just becomes natural for them to use certain, vocabulary. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but I do think that we do need to know how to work with certain people. I'm not telling people, other professionals to dumb themselves down, but I do feel like you should be reasonable in terms of, if you are working with the underrepresented population and you have an extensive vocabulary, you may want to tone that down, so that people understand that. Because I have found that in the industry, well, I tried to help them, and they're like, they just don't get it. I'm like, do they not get it, or were you not explaining it correctly? Because I know that for me, when I talk to certain people, I will not use certain vocabulary, not because I really don't think that they know it, but just because I'm just trying to be down to earth. You're not going to catch me doing that. I learned that enough. Like, they were, my husband liked to say this, like, you're book smart, but you're street smart. Yeah, I am, because I need to be, and this is the population, even working with other entrepreneurs in the business world, because most of my clients are, business owners. And even with some of them, I still won't use certain things. And then when it comes to certain conversations where I know those people like to use those words, and certainly I'll use that when I need to. But it's just, I think having that, it's a communication barrier. And even some of them really don't know how to reach out to them, because they're like, well, they don't come to the community events that I'm at or whatever. It wasn't advertised enough, so they didn't know about it. What are you doing to outreach more to those type of individuals? I always get at. So I don't get on the people. I get on the businesses that are doing that work. I don't think that they're doing enough, or they're doing it incorrectly.
Well, listen, you preach to the choir with that. I'm totally with you with that. I think for me, and what I ensure that all our facilitators do is meet people where they're at. If they're not able to digest the information that you're giving them, then you have to be accountable, because you're the one communicating to them. You know what I mean? They're going to communicate their needs and their dreams and their goals. And your job is to communicate to them how to achieve that, how to see that, and how to make that a reality. And again, like you said, the jargon, the meet me where, hey, you got to meet me over here. You got to meet people where they're at, so you could show them where to go. And everything you described is literally that, meeting people where they're at, coming, getting an understanding through just, regular English. And I think you said it right. Not dumbing down. I don't even think it's a matter of dumbing down. I think you could use the jargon if you're willing to explain it. Like you do a really good job of saying CDFI or CDBG, and then you breaking down the acronym, and then 9 out of 10 times someone's gonna be like, oh, okay. You know what I mean? Like a certified financial counselor, CFC. Like you break that down, and I think that's what our job is as individuals that are giving financial education, is to make sure they understand it, and that's on our job to figure out innovative or clever or simple ways to get people to understand. Because once they understand how it works, they realize that they already been doing it in a way. They just didn't know they were doing it, or they didn't know it was called this. And just breaking it down just so that they're able to digest it and then apply it, and then they can use the words and use the big words later on themselves. You know what I mean? But giving them that understanding is important. So thank you for that. Can you share, what are some upcoming projects or initiatives that the Katrina Goins Consulting LLC has on the horizon?
So that's a good question too, because I'm always trying to figure out what are these next steps. I do have some clients that are looking for a grant for me to do my grant writing service, which is always a good thing, right? And I do have a prospective CDFI client, or someone, a business that's looking to become a CDFI, but they're just like, this is beyond me. I need a consultant. And I'm like, yeah, that's actually a good thing that you're thinking in that way. Not just because I want your business, but honestly, because I wish I would have thought in that way when I was trying to become a CDFI at my other organization I worked for. We were just like, we can do this thing without a consultant, and some things you just need someone's help for. So I'm looking at that. And then there's a couple other RFPs I'm looking at, which are, again, are requests for proposals. So they put out some different projects for me to do research on. One is a library inclusion project to try to get libraries to be more inclusive to people that typically don't apply or typically are not getting the role, how they can be more inclusive. I'm looking at doing that RFP. And there's also another RFP out in California that I'm looking to do as well. That's helping with a coalition transition into either an LLC or corp or whatever they want to do. So most of my clients are outside of the state of Connecticut. Like I'm working right now in Chicago, mostly remote, but I do have to go do a couple of site visits because I'm doing a strategic plan out there. A couple other consultants, and my other clients. I haven't been open for that long, only November 2023, but my other clients
Nice.
out in out. Can I just get some more Connecticut clients so I can actually could drive more into the client's office? I actually do like to, stay local if I can, but for the most part, yeah, I have been doing business out of the state, and I don't know if it's going to stay like that. We'll see how everything goes. But yeah, I do a series of multiple things. And that's why I put on my website that even though you might see me say, oh, I do CDFI or I do grant writing or this, I do tailor services as long as I can do the service, of course, but I do tailor things that really meet the needs. Because it wasn't like I was looking to do library inclusion. I just happened to find this project. And I was like, well, I do love working with inclusion related topics. And I thought that was interesting that they were looking to make the library system a lot more inclusive to people that, can't get the role to try to get in there. But anyway, because I do research, that's a big thing too, to write grants. I wasn't going to offer the service, but I was like, yeah, I do it anyway. To write grants, you have to do a tremendous amount of research to really write a rigorous grant. But anyway, yeah, so those are some upcoming things that I am looking to do, and I'm really super excited about it.
Nah, that's awesome. I'm excited for you, and I'm hoping that the podcast can help shed light onto the business and the amazing work you're doing, and we can get some local Connecticut residents or organizations to sign up.
Yeah.
So I have two last questions for you. The first question is, can you tell us about a book or a person who has profoundly influenced your professional and or personal philosophy?
I know it sounds corny, but really one of the best books is the Bible.
And that ain't corny. That ain't corny at all.
On reading it to understand things, and because I do read other books, but I'm just like, that's my favorite book. Okay. Yes, but I also would say a person that has been influential. I have to mention this. So I'm a board of director for Christian Community Action Agency in New Haven.
Okay, yeah. Shout out to them.
Yeah. Reverend Benita Grubbs just retired, and I have to say she is so influential to me. And I mean, I'm unfortunately I just learned really more about her when I joined the board, but when I heard about her background and everything that she's did for the community, and her being also another woman of color, it was just so inspiring. I just appreciate seeing that type of the skills, the leadership, everything. I appreciate those type of role models. And it's so unfortunate that I wasn't able to be on the board long enough before she retired, or decided that she was retiring, like when I was only like 3 or 4 months in, and I'm like, oh shoot.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, those very influential people like her, that work in the community space, that also a woman of color, very influential to me.
Yeah, she's amazing. She's one of those names in the community, especially the city of New Haven. She's one of those names that's like, oh yeah, she's a real deal. She's been the real deal. I know I might be too much insider information right now, but hey, I know I'm on the board for the Women Consortium, Connecticut Women Consortium, and I know we were trying to recruit her onto the board. So I don't know what happened with that, but I hope that happens, because like you said, she's one of those special ones. She's one of those ones that what she's about. She does the work. She's been doing the work, and she's impacted countless number of people, not just in New Haven, but just everywhere, right? She's one of those. She's special. She's special, and I definitely see why she would be one of those people. She's one of those special ones. So that's awesome. So I thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's an absolute pleasure, and we're excited to do this. I know we went through a lot to get here, but we got here, on God's time, right? God's plan, divine timing. So I'm so happy that you're able to join us. Can you tell people, can you, shout out your business, your website, social media, just tell people where they can find you, and just go over the services you offer, just so people could could know what they're looking for when they come looking for you.
Thank you too. I appreciate it. And I'm just so thankful you had me here on the Falling Up podcast. So again, my business is Katrina Goins Consulting, my name, first and last name, Katrina Goins Consulting. You could find me on those social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. LinkedIn's my favorite. And then my website is www.katrinagoinsconsulting.com. And again, my services are for businesses that are looking for someone to write their grants, or if they're looking for RFPs, and that could be in the form of funding opportunities, like a grant, or if you're looking for specific projects through a RFP, I do find those for you, and I can write them also for you. And I do help with businesses that are looking to embrace some sort of financial inclusion within their business. You don't have to be a bank or a financial institution for me to do that. You could just be a regular organization looking for someone to create a standard operating procedure that has some sort of financial inclusion in it, and I will be helpful in that. And then I also work with other consultants as well. So other consultants that are feeling the burnout, please know that I work in Unity and I can help you in subcontract. And lastly, I have one service for individuals. Those are for individuals that are looking for homes mortgage, either through their first-time home buyer, or they're looking to refinance, but they're going through some challenges trying to find the right lender. I do help you with that.
That's awesome. Well, I'm gonna be in touch because as you know, that CDFI. I want to talk to you about that and other things. So I think there's a lot of synergy, and this is just the beginning. I appreciate you and everything that you've done and do, and I'm excited to see where the business goes. And you're doing a lot of great work, and necessary work is needed. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being you. And thank you all for joining us on the Falling Up podcast.
Thank you.